Keira Roets. How are you?
I'm doing well today. How are you?
I am fantastic. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah, you're going to be very popular here because there's a question that's been burning in the minds of a lot of contractors. And
hmm
you're kind of an expert on things that are burning in the minds of business owners and when it comes to people, the people side of the business.
Very true. Definitely like to keep my ear to the ground on what's going on to help businesses these days.
Yeah. So actually, why don't I do this, Keira? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and how is it you come to be speaking to this group of contractors all across the world?
Yeah, great question. I'm the director of people operations at Beacon HR. So at Beacon, we provide support to organizations in the small, medium size, usually in talent acquisition or recruitment space, and people operations, also known as HR, to help them attract, recruit, and retain top talent. Usually we work with small to medium-sized organizations, but most importantly with organizations that want to change what's going on with their people. Yeah, I've been in HR and recruitment for just over 10 years now. I've seen a lot. I've worked with
Yeah.
a lot of different organizations. I'm here to give you all of like the best of what I've learned in my career thus far.
Excellent. Well, because today we're going to be talking about something that it feels like this big ominous foot that gets stomped on a city, which is when Amazon moves in and starts hiring all these entry-level positions with crazy ads that say no resume required.
Yep.
Things like that. But let me ask you something. In the 10 years that you've been in HR, that you've been helping people find and recruit, has it gotten easier or has it gotten harder to find good people?
It has gotten harder, to be completely honest. It's really changed a lot. About 10 years ago when I was just starting in my career, the war for talent, as we like to call it in the industry.
War for talent. Oh, you guys come to work ready. Okay,
we are ready.
Like we're on it. Yeah.
We are on it. Yeah. So the war for talent was different about 10 years ago. There were not so many jobs available, but a lot of people, skilled and unskilled, whether or not they've had post-secondary education or specialized training. There wasn't that many jobs available. So you were getting people with like master's degrees applying for entry-level positions and really pushing those like real true entry-level people out. And then with like a lot more tech coming to cities and small towns, more startups and things like that, there's more jobs available now than there are people. Yeah. So it shifted a lot and it's given the power back to the people, like the job seekers, as we like to call them, and away from the employers.
Yeah.
So it has really shifted and changed. And now with more, I'd say, access to technology and social media, that information is being disseminated a lot quicker in terms of where are great places to work and where are not great places to work.
Well, you know what? Hopefully you can guide us through maybe some of the social media questions people have, because we know we're all business owners. We know that even if somebody doesn't get a job with us, 15 minutes later, when they go into the next shop or on the next job site, somebody there says, yeah, you start today. We're hungry for staff. And unfortunately, and you probably know this because I worked with you guys before, just hiring bodies is not the way to go. You need to hire the right people with the right culture. We, as business owners, we have to onboard them right to make sure that they understand how we do. But it's hard because you're just not necessarily getting people through the door. And then this Amazon thing floats in.
Oh, yeah. Amazon, those big organizations come to town, whether it's Amazon
Tesla moving into South Texas. Well, everywhere. They're putting facilities.
Tesla's everywhere now. You've got Apple expanding their reach, Walt Disney tapping into new markets. You name it, they're popping up. They want to find a place that, low land costs so they can expand and then drive up those costs of other things like how much your housing costs and other sorts of things. And it's pricing people out of markets. And it's really changing how people are showing up to work and what they're looking for at the end of the day.
Yeah. One of my clients is in South Texas and he's a fencing contractor. So he hires guys that can put up fences. And they range all the way from really senior carpenters all the way to, you call it junior, a laborer carpenter, right?
Yeah.
But that's the kind of person that's getting gobbled up by Tesla or by Amazon. And I've seen ads in many cities that I've done work in where Amazon's like, no resume required, interviews on site.
Mhm.
And that's what we're competing with now. So what do we do? Sorry, let me get this back to you. What do we
Mm.
do as business owners? Because this is small to medium business owners, anywhere from a one-person crew trying to be two, all the way to maybe 10, 15, or 20 employees. How do we go at this so that we can compete with the Amazons and the Teslas of the world?
Yeah. I would even say up to about 100 team members.
Sure.
I think this would be pretty applicable. I would say one of the most important things, first and foremost, is to identify your team's motivations to stay in your organization or what's causing them to leave. And it can be, I can give you some tips and tricks to how to get this information and elicit it out of them. But the main ones I've, really experienced lately, but over the years is, people want a greater importance on their work-life balance, or what we want to call now work-life integration, growth opportunities and career advancement, psychological safety in the workplace. That one is huge this year.
What is psychological safety in the workplace?
So it's being able to show up at work, ideally as your true and authentic self, or as true and authentic as you can be, and feel safe in the workplace to express your opinion without fear for retribution. So if you're soliciting opinions on a project or an idea and someone puts their hand up and maybe it's a dissenting or an opinion that you don't agree with, they're not fearful that their job is on the line by saying, hey, I actually think your idea sucks.
Right. Yeah. All ideas are good. Some ideas are better than others. They all go on the board. We're going to work with some of them, and others we're not gonna.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'd say like the other two main ones are paid time off, whether that's vacation time or sick leave. And then of course, money. People who say they're motivated by money, you're probably lying, unless you make a ton of money or you come from generational wealth, or maybe you won the lottery. But, I would say money as a motivator applies to, I would say 80 to 90% of people. But the money is tricky when you're dealing with the Amazons of the world.
Right.
They're able to spend tons of capital on their labor, but I do have some ideas on what levers you can pull to change that kind of narrative with your team.
I'd love to hear those, because it's the fear of the unknown for a lot of us. There's some big company that's moving into our area. It doesn't matter whether it's Boston or Winnipeg or South Florida. It doesn't matter where we are. So what are the levers that we can pull here?
Yeah, I'll save money for last because that's usually kind of like a fun one. I would say in terms of paid time off right now, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. We're in year 3. So it also leans into that psychological safety piece, is offering people paid time off. I know that there are certain provinces and potentially certain states that have legislated sick leave. Offering some sick days to your team member, whether they're paid or unpaid, is based on your financials in your organization. But the bottom line is job protected sick leave. So if someone is sick, they know that their job is safe and they have something to come back to, so that they're able to focus on getting better, getting healthy, so that they can come back and be their best selves and do that work for you. If you can offer someone, paid vacation days, 10 business days or 2 weeks of paid vacation, your employees' productivity, your team members' productivity coming back from having at least, 5 consecutive business days off, their productivity is going to skyrocket. Their retention is going to skyrocket. Their happiness is going to skyrocket. So that is a nice lever that you can pull.
And can I ask, you may or may not know this, and it's probably different in every market, but does Amazon, is that one of, Amazon doesn't do this? Like if you don't work that day, you don't get paid. So you've got that buffer, you're saying, to build in that buffer on our side. If you do work, if you do take some time off, we're still going to take care of you.
Yeah, I know that, what Amazon's offering varies, again, state to state, province to province, and role to role. For like an entry level role, let's say, your entry level laborer is maybe being poached or being lured away to become a warehouse employee. Someone who's picking and packing orders, maybe they're able to make $2 to $3 more an hour, which is the difference of potentially putting food on someone's table at the end of the day or at the end of the week, and figuring out which bills you're going to pay. At Amazon or at these other large organizations, they care about your productivity and your output. So if you're not picking and packing orders as quickly as Amazon deems to be fit, you might not have a job. So I would say that leans more into, caring personally about your team members and that work-life integration piece. So the work-life integration is kind of this movement away from work-life balance where, you work 9 to 5, and in your 5 to 9, that's your life. And what do you do in that time? And there's this separation. But people want integration more so now. They want that ability to, if they're a parent, to be able to pick up their kids from school or drop them off.
Right.
Like that's so important. Or, being able to take them to those activities. I guess like another point would be, can you potentially shorten your work week?
Well, some people like to do 10-hour days. They'll do 4 10s, right? Move to that kind of flexibility where you still get the 40 hours in, and with the opportunities for overtime and things like that that are important.
Of course.
Yeah.
And then maybe even like the location of work, if must your team member, be in the office, if they are more on like the administrative side of things, like do they have to be in the office? And maybe even like question yourself, like why this person has to be in the office all of the time.
Well, so for a lot of these contractors, they're either in a shop. They're in a shop, right? So they have to go to their shop. That's where their bench is. That's where the machinery is. Or they're installers on site. And so there's different types, right? There's people who work on site, like the defense contractor. But you're right. The administrative staff, people who are doing estimates or drafting, engineering. Actually, had a client. Yeah, the bookkeeper. That's right. They can be, especially with technology, they can be anywhere. I had a client who a guy wanted to buy a house, and the market they were in, San Francisco, you can't buy a house. You just can't. And so he moved where he could afford. Him and his wife moved where they could afford, and he got lured away by this other shop that said, come live here. It's a wonderful place. Come work for us. We're a wonderful place. Well, he went there. He picked up his whole family, and he found out he hated the company and hated the job. So he contacted his old company back, my ex-client, and said, I don't know what to do. And they said, well, can you work remotely? So now this guy lives in this other city, was able to have the house, 3-bedroom, a yard, kids, toys for the kids, but he could still work remotely for this company. So there are flexibility options, right?
Oh, definitely. And I would say, something an employer could potentially offer is funds to help their team members purchase a home in and around where they work from. If you're able to shorten that commute time, that's money that they're saving, less wear and tear on their vehicle, less money on gas. And I know regardless of where you are, gas prices are going up.
I think that's a great idea, by the way. If I can help my team with a down payment or with a mortgage. And by the way, folks, we're not talking about giving away money for free. I'm talking about, create a little fund, have something at interest rate or below interest rate, but maybe you're going to be easier on them for approval because they work in your shop. You see them at the bench or you see them on site every day, and you know that this person's going through a life change. They're going to have a kid, and like, hey, do you want us to help you down payment on a house? Do you want us to help you with this? Or I don't know. There's so many options there, but creativity will always solve problems. Money does not solve problems. Creativity, that's what solves problems.
Exactly. And, speaking to these funds that employers are setting up for their team members, providing minimal interest or even interest-free loans to their team members, besides helping with a potential down payment, which is absolutely lovely. It could help them with unexpected expenses that could pop up, like a vet bill, maybe a dental bill. And that money, of course, like you said, isn't money you're just giving away for free. It's money that, they will be paying back. And let's say you lent someone even $1,000, that's also a retention tool. They're not going to leave because they don't want to have to just fork out this money right out of pocket because they didn't have it.
There's a couple people laughing, listening to this right now going, no, I think these guys might leave. But you know what it does come down to? Everything you're talking about here comes down to pride. Like, am I proud of the crew I work on, the shop I work with?
Yeah.
Do we have, nice uniforms? Does the company give me t-shirts? Do they do barbecues on payday Fridays? Whatever it is. And we're talking about hot dogs, hamburgers, not breaking the bank, but the kind of thing that makes me want to come to work and makes me not want to leave.
Exactly. And that's about caring personally for your team, making sure your team members don't feel like a number, their name, you take some time in your one-to-one meetings or your check-in meetings with them to ask about their lives, because that also really frames how they're showing up to work.
Yeah.
And also one thing, team members really want, especially as the generations are shifting and changing of the ones that are entering the workforce, you've got the millennials in there, Gen Zs are working their way in. They really want feedback more than anything. They want to hear how they're doing and how they can improve, because improvement leads to career growth. Career growth leads to them staying with your organization.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to give feedback properly, whether positive or constructive, as a leader, I implore upon you to please learn this number one skill this year. Because the number of people who are like, I don't know how to do this, or I've never given someone feedback. I'm like, really?
Well,
okay, cool.
So the feedback thing actually came up in an interview I did just last week, where we need to be better at giving feedback, because it's hard to go to somebody who just leveled something, but now it's the wrong height, and say, and give them feedback. There's the sandwich method where you say, well, you did a great job putting the post in the ground. You did a good job mixing the concrete, but it's not the right height. But some people don't hear that correctly. They just, all they hear is, you're picking at me. No, I'm not. So that's one thing. That's one thing for sure. But we have to keep in mind that we're still running a company. I got to have quality, right? And sometimes people get their noses out of joint. Let me ask this, where we talked about career advancement. In a lot of the companies, a lot of my listeners, a lot of this audience, there's two levels to the company. There's the owner and there's not the owner. Right? So where's the career advancement when everybody who's not the owner is kind of just, that's their level. Maybe there's a foreman, maybe there's a crew lead, but there's not a lot of movement available, upward movement, maybe sideways. But what do I do there?
Yeah, I would honestly ask your team members, like, what are they I'm sure there's something that they are interested in. Maybe you have someone who's, skilled in one thing, but doesn't know so much about something else in your business or your organization. Maybe they have dreams of wanting to become an estimator. I don't know, but being able to just ask them that question, really listen, and then provide those opportunities, whether they're in-house and you're able to, set up like a mentorship program or something like that where they can learn on the job, or if you have the ability to provide them with, funds, an education fund to advance their skill set so they're able to go from,
I love it.
Level 1 to level 2 to level 3. Again, that's what's going to enable them to stay and provide you with that retention.
Can I give you a couple of stories just from because I work with lots of clients, and then one of my stories actually comes from my dad. Now, my dad is a first-generation immigrant. I love him to death, but he's like a crusty welder. Like he's a welder. He's a millwright / welder, but he's an unticketed millwright. But one of the things that he always told me, he's like, Dom, when I was working as a welder, they said, hey, do you want to learn to do roll-up doors? So you got to think of a van, moving van, the back doors. And he goes, yeah, I'll learn how to do roll-up doors. Okay, now, do you want to learn how to do hydraulics? He's like, yeah, I'll learn how to do hydraulics. That's the arm that picks up maybe a pallet of bricks and puts it on the flatbed. Hey, do you want to learn how to do this? And so my dad kept saying yes to those things. And then the 80s came. Now, Keira, I know you don't remember the 80s, so I won't ask you, but you can ask your parents.
I will.
It was a tough, it was a tough time. It was a really tough time. And layoffs happened in my dad's welding shop, and he didn't get laid off because they said, well, Joe can do roll-up doors. Joe can do high abs. Joe can do lift gates. Joe can do aluminum roofs. And so they said, you got to keep the guys who have a bunch of skills. So that's the first thing.
Exactly.
The second thing, I don't want to cut you off because it's your interview. No. The second thing is, I like your point about education and have a fund. Having a fund, people listening are going, I don't know how to do that. Well, here's a quick idea. Tell your people, if you go buy a book or you take a course on X, Y, or Z, hydraulic hose fittings, let's just say, and you come back and you talk to me about the course you took, give me an overview. I will pay for the course and I'll double it. So if they spent $400 to take the course, I'm going to give you $800 back.
Yeah.
Because now I've got a more educated person on my team. So one final thing, people are going, well, what if I educate this guy and he leaves? The alternate is, what if you don't educate them and they stay?
Totally.
It's worse. Okay, I'll stop talking. It's your turn.
No
Sorry, Keira.
worries. No, I love
Sorry.
the stories. There's a book that came out a few years ago called No Rules Rules, and it's about Netflix and their culture. And you're like, how does Netflix and their culture relate to the building world? Well, one of the things, there's a couple of things in that book that are really great. One is they teach you how to give feedback very well. Two, they talk about high talent density. And this is not just applicable to tech companies or the Netflixes of the world.
Yeah.
This relates directly to what you were saying, Dom, is you want high talent dense individuals at your organization. So you want the people that say yes to learning and growing and developing themselves, because those are the ones that are going to broaden their skill set, that in their downtime, when they have that paid vacation time, maybe are able to sit there and think of, how can I make this business better? They're investing in me. I want to give, like, they think in how they're going to level up your organization at the end of the day. Yeah. So that high talent density is important.
High talent density. And that's what Netflix looks for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want, one of the things, and Netflix is one of those companies that could move into your neighborhood and freak you out. And it's easy to look at Netflix and think it's been a success story all along. But I want everybody to remember, Netflix started as a mail us your order, we'll mail you the DVD, then you mail it back company. Can you imagine the boardroom table discussion when they said, we're going to move from being a mail us your request, we'll mail you the DVD, you mail it back company, to saying, hey, next week, we're going to turn into an online streaming company and we have to let X thousand people go.
They did. Yeah.
And they did, right?
They did.
Because those kind of cojones is how you keep the business going. So anybody out there listening who says, it's such a tough decision to tell people that we start at 7:15, you got to show up on time. That is nothing compared to the kind of conversations that, for instance, Netflix had when they said, hey, next Monday, we're no longer a mail us your request, we'll mail you a DVD, then you mail it back, please, company. Crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's wild. And it's those leaps that come through giving your team members time to rest and recharge so they can show up and be their best selves. So yeah, paid time off, it works.
Yeah, it does. It does. Paid time off, investing in their education, being good with them, right?
Caring personally.
What do you see people doing, like the easy stuff to build culture, build a strong team? What could I do next week on my construction site that you maybe have seen?
Well, there is such a thing called an ENPS survey. So you're looking for your employee net promoter score.
Okay.
You could whip one together on like a short.
You can look.
Like you can send it out by an email. You can put it on SurveyMonkey. There's so many ways you can do this. Yeah. It's typically really short. It's 2 questions. One is, how would you rate our company on a scale from 1 to 10? 1 being low, or I would not recommend people to work here ever. And 10 being, yes, I would recommend people to work here. And see what the average is. Anything 8 and higher is great. Those are the people that will make referrals internally. Your company's doing well, I would say, culturally. 7 and below, you've got a lot of detractors. So try and see, what's detracting people from referring people to work for your organization or their happiness. And then the second question is, why did you give the rating you did?
Right. So give us a serious answer.
Yeah, we wanted, and you're not going to get a serious answer unless people A, take you seriously, and B, actually think you're going to do something with the answer. I've come across so many organizations, that are like, oh yeah, please tell me what you think. And then they get the information and then they don't do anything with it. And you're like, what was the point?
Yeah.
You asked me for my opinion, but you actually don't care. So
yeah, what's the use of doing the survey?
So then, you're going to have no one completing it in future because everyone's like, well, I've said something, but they didn't hear me or they weren't listening. And you're not going to be able to make 100% of people 100% happy 100% of the time. That's super unrealistic. But if you see some common threads, take a look and dig a little bit deeper. And typically these are anonymous for good reason. Again, that fear of retribution that people have. Like, if I say something that the boss doesn't agree with, am I going to lose my job? But if you start seeing common threads, start having a conversation about it and start seeing, like, what are my options available to me internally to solve this? If people are saying, I don't feel I'm paid fairly, or I don't feel like I'm paid equitably within the organization, take a look at the data you have available to you. Are you paying people equitably based on the roles that they're in, their level of experience, and their gender? Like, gender pay disparity is so big, and it's something we're actively working in HR to eliminate. And are you providing them with a livable wage for the area that they're working in?
Yeah. And let me ask you, how can I compare our company against other companies for what a livable wage in the area is? Is there some easy ways to find out?
Yeah, you could Google it.
You could Google it. Just look on Indeed. That's it. You can Google everything.
You totally can. I know that there are some, I can't remember which states, but certain states you have to advertise what the wage you're paying is.
Right.
So you can do a quick search online against your, what we like to call, recruitment competitors. So those are people of similar organizations, size, industry, who are attracting the same type of roles and candidates. So at Beacon, we offer a recruitment marketing audit. So we will do a very robust look at a bunch of different facets and present this data back to you. But a quick check is, like you said, pop on Google, pop on Indeed, see who's paying what for the roles. You can even Google what is a livable wage in my city, my town, my state, so on and so forth. There's an organization, I can't remember what it's called, but you could become a livable wage certified provider. So people would search you out because they know you provide a livable wage.
A livable wage. Yeah. A lot of those awards or certifications actually bring the best employer awards. That brings you people. Or when somebody's got a choice between two jobs and you're right at the finish line with them from their side, they're like, I'm going to go with the one that got an award from the state or from the province that said, this is a top place to work in Georgia, or top place to work in Saskatchewan, right? Whatever it is. I want to loop back to something you said earlier, which was retention, keeping people. And then I was talking about pride. You and I didn't prep on this on numbers, but do you know from your HR experience, is it more expensive to find somebody or more expensive to replace somebody? Right? You know what, do you know what I mean? If I lose, should I be working harder to retain the people I've got in this tough market, or should I be working harder to just keep finding people and burning through them?
It is so much more expensive to replace someone or hire someone than it is to keep your current team members. Granted that they are a culture fit or a culture add, and they are performing well in their role. Of course, if you have someone who's not a fit, who's not performing, yes, get rid of them. Find someone who does fit. But a cost of a mishire or a replacement is astronomical.
Yeah. It just takes so much effort and energy, right? Because onboarding somebody and getting them up to speed is going to take 3 to 6 months, maybe 2 years, depending on how technical the position is. So if you're burning through people all the time, you're wasting money and you're wasting time. So working at retention, working at the simple things like barbecues on Fridays. Knowing everybody's names, taking a minute to talk to them, treating everybody with respect. It doesn't mean rolling over when they say, no, that's the way you do it. Say, no. The way we do it is the way I say we do it because it's my company. And so the proper way to do that fence, to do that foundation, to do the roof, to do whatever, to do safety is the way we do it here. So you still hold to your values as a business owner, but you still want that person to understand that we hear them, like you said.
Exactly. And speaking to what you said about retention, look at that data that's available to you. It's not super tricky to calculate what is your current retention rate, how many people are coming in versus how many people are going out, and see what that cost to your business is. How much time is money, and also time is a very finite resource for all of us. How much time is this costing you at the end of the day? And then if you are seeing a lot of turnover You're seeing a lot of people exit your organization. Are you conducting exit interviews? If you're not, start doing them. You don't even have to ask them a bajillion questions. You can even put it in a survey format if you really want. I also find that people give better answers in a survey format than having this like weird, awkward conversation with HR or their boss, because they aren't usually as honest as they can be if they have the time to look at the question, think about it, and reflect upon it. But again, don't ask for the data and don't ask for the answers
without doing something about it.
You're not going to do something about it, and B, you're not ready to maybe swallow a pretty tough pill.
Well, listen, it's about reality. We ask our people to swallow tough pills all the time when we say, hey, that the job, that particular piece of the job's got to be redone, or you didn't do it right, or, there's always delicacies around people. But what does that exit interview email look like? And let me take a stab at it, and then you can correct me. Hey, Jerry, so sorry you left. I wish you best in your future. Would you mind, in your own words, telling us what we could have done differently? Now at that part, I'm lost. What do I say there? Dear Jerry.
Dear Jerry. You could ask Jerry, what prompted you to start looking for another role?
There you go. Why did you start looking? So that we can continually improve.
Or is there anything we could have done to keep you?
Yeah. And I know I've done these before. And what's amazing to me is the ones I've done, it really comes back to pride a lot of times.
Yeah, unfortunately, I see people who feel like spurned, like they were burned in some way, shape, or form, and they're like,
nobody cares about me here.
No one cares. No one cares personally about me. And there's so much that happens outside of work that people forget about. They see an employee, and again, it's that number versus name perspective, and it's like, well, so and so is not performing well. And here's actually a really good example. I was working with a small like web development agency, and they had someone who wasn't performing very well in their role. And they're like, well, I think we need to let so-and-so go. And I was like, well, how long have they not been performing well? What areas are they not performing well? Trying to figure out what is actually going on. I ended up taking this person for a coffee back when we could actually do those fun things. And it turns out that they were actually going through a divorce, but they didn't tell anyone. At work, because they didn't feel safe to tell their manager. And it took me taking them out for coffee to have a conversation and ask and care personally and say, hey, so-and-so, I noticed you haven't been showing up in as your usual self. You're not, as cheerful, you're not as happy, or whatever it was. I can't remember now. And they said, oh, well, to be honest, and to let you know, I'm actually separating from my wife and I'm going through a divorce right now. And this is really hard for me. And I was like, okay. I did ask them whether or not I could share this information back upwards.
Right.
They said with appropriate people, obviously keep it confidential. But getting that little nugget of information on how they were showing up at work was obviously impacting their performance. This is an incredibly stressful life change for them. Me just giving that information to their manager, they were like, oh, okay, well, now that I know, I can back off. I can understand that so-and-so is not performing as well, but it comes back to that caring personally piece. Care about your team members.
Yeah. I've got a client in Washington State. And it's funny because it's kind of, it dovetails with that story. It goes right with it.
Yeah.
He says one of his guys, younger guy that he hired, likes coming to work because it's the only place he has consistency in his life. I guess he grew up in a really crappy house, and it's just his life situation isn't good. But when he comes to work, there's rules, there's meeting, everything's orderly. Everybody's they're not nice in the way everything you can get by with anything, but it's a respectful place. But his home life is not like that at all.
Yep.
And these guys don't pay top of the market. And this is an entry-level job in a cabinet shop, right? And it's a great cabinet shop. The owner really cares. He's a super nice guy, and he really cares. And they have very strong family values and faith values. And I guess this guy just loves it because at work is where he's calm and happy. And as you said earlier, he's kind of protected. It's not, he's going to get attacked and there's weird stuff happening with family.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of this all the time, is I think everybody has the same life I do. And they don't. I was on a conference call once because of the work from home, for a little while there, people had to go work from home. And so somebody's bookkeeper and I were talking about their dashboard, which is how they report their metrics. And I said, hey, can we talk? And she goes, oh yeah, I'll be home, but I'm taking care of my son that day. Well, okay, great. So we set the phone appointment. Her son in the background sounded like Damien the Omen, like a horror movie character screaming, I hate you, Mom. And I'm like,
oh my God,
I've learned too much about her home life, like way too much. And imagine she's trying to do work at home when maybe work is her quiet and happy place.
It goes both ways. And I don't have any children myself, but I was watching my niece and she's about 1.5 years, and I was doing some team meetings and I was like, oh, it'll be fine. Like in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. Like Auntie's got this under control. I can have a couple of team meetings, like not as high pressure as like, this or a meeting with a client. And I was like, yeah, I got this. Girlfriend's busy. And she like wants to be in the meetings, but then she wants to do something else. And I'm trying to like, meet with my team members. And I was like, I did this for like an afternoon. And I was like, wow, bless those parents. I'm so sorry. But like it's enabled me to show up with more compassion for those parents. And it's like, yeah, I get that, you might like of a hybrid option, working in the office versus working from home. Like, I get this now.
I understand why.
This makes sense. Yeah. And again, it's just showing up and caring personally about your team members, being compassionate and seeing what's going on.
So let me loop us back to the original question. Yeah, we're going to loop back. Can a small business compete with Amazon, Tesla, Disney, Microsoft, Apple, when they put a big footprint on your city and start gobbling up staff? Can we compete?
Absolutely. 100%. Can you retain everyone? No. Will you retain the people who care about your business? Yes.
Yeah. I think we just have to go at it on purpose. I'm a business owner. I'm running this business on purpose, and I got to fight every day. What else is new? Bring on the next challenge. Amazon, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're going to lose someone again over a couple bucks because they want to go work at Amazon, as a pick and packer, let them go. That's obviously not the best fit person for your organization.
Yeah.
And one other thing I forgot to add was on, like, I'd say the monetary thing. One thing that these big companies can dangle are these like fun things called stock options. They're just options. They actually, there's a lot more to it. So if someone's like, well, I could get stock options in Amazon. It's like, well, why don't you read the fine print and come back and let me know? I'm not an expert in this personally, but I do know there's a lot more to it, and it sounds shiny and it sounds flashy, but it really isn't at the end of the day.
You just reminded me of a picture I saw once of two barbershops next door to each other. And the one barbershop says $5 haircuts. And the barbershop next to it says, we fix $5 haircuts.
Yep.
So think about that for a second. So maybe the ad we need to run in a city where you've got Amazon, where you've got Tesla, just use those. The ad might say, fed up with working at Amazon.
100%.
Because Amazon's not keeping everybody either. Right.
No,
and there's reasons for everything. So we've just got to be there and be ready to compete, go head to head. These big companies, they're good and they're bad as competitors of ours. But yeah, I know we can find a way.
Absolutely. There's always a way.
Keira, thank you. This has been super, really good. I appreciate it. If somebody wants to find you and find out more about Beacon in this big wide world, how do we find you guys?
Yeah, you can find us on our website. If you Google Beacon HR, we should pop up. Or you can send us an email. So you can send it to askhr@beacon-hr.com. And
perfect.
We'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. Yeah. Thank you so much, Keira. I really appreciate your expert insight into this. It's stressful for a lot of people, and hearing you talk about it, and you deal with it every day. Every day. So we got your insights every single day.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Keira. Have a great day.
Thank
we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.